Hey babes, my name's Hannah.
And my name's Chasity.
Welcome back to Bookish Babes. Today we have a new video that Chasity came up with the idea for. We're going to be talking about books that we wish we had read when we were younger. So most of these are books that we've read. We just wish that we'd read them when we were a little bit younger at a different point in our lives. Books that we think would have shaped us. And books that we recommend maybe you who have kids.
Yeah.
Let your kids read.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Some of them, like some of the kids' books, I didn't read. Like I haven't read yet.
But you think you would?
But I think they would have been like right up my alley.
Yeah.
If I had them when I was a child, because some of them weren't even around yet when I was a kid.
Right. Yeah.
So yeah.
So most of mine are teen.
Okay.
And you've got some kid ones.
I do. I have some kid and some teen ones.
Yeah.
Do you want to go first? Or do you want me to go first?
You should go first.
Okay, so definitely the first book that popped up in my head when I thought of this one was Harry Potter. Harry Potter came out when I was kind of like entering teen, I think, but I didn't read it when it first came out. I didn't read it until later. So I didn't read it until my late teens, like my middle late teens. I definitely would have been all about it in my younger years though. I definitely would have picked it up when I was much younger if like I knew. I wish I had, because I would have been all about it.
I also didn't read it when it first came out, obviously because the first book was published the year that I was born. But
what year was that?
98.
Yeah, see, I wish I would have picked it up right then.
You would have been too young though.
I would have been 8. I was already reading.
I forget that you were that much older. I mean, not like that much older than me, but you know what I mean? Yeah.
I was 8.
Yeah, I read Harry Potter pretty young, to the point where when I reread it in high school, I didn't remember a lot of it. But it was very formative to my childhood, obviously. So, highly recommend for children.
It's so good.
It's got so many like life lessons in there too.
It really does.
About like friendship and understanding and not judging people.
No, it really, really does. It is a beautiful, beautiful book for kids.
It's just the
not
whole
even
story
just about like the fantasy aspect, but just
because it's not super high fantasy. It's something that kids are able to keep up with, obviously, because it is a children's book. But yeah. The first book that I want to mention is something that I read last year, and I've talked about it on this channel before. It's called Unpregnant. It also is a movie that's on HBO Max. I really, really, really loved it. It's about a girl in high school who gets pregnant and doesn't want to be pregnant, and so she makes a plan to terminate, but she lives in a state where that's not a possibility for her. So she kind of teams up with a friend that she had in middle school who's now kind of the outcast at school, and they drive together. They do this huge big road trip to a different state so that she can get an abortion. And there's just so many. I understand how some people would feel like that's like a sensitive topic for younger people to read, but it's just such a great story of friendship and two people who have grown apart coming back together, and somebody realizing what she did wrong in the past to make that friend grow apart in the first place, and a story about like body autonomy, about this boyfriend that she has who doesn't want her to do this, but her realizing that it is her choice. And it's just, it was a great story, and I wish that I had access to it when I was a little bit younger. I think it would have made me a little bit less judgmental. It was really, really great.
Yeah, I think that would have been a good one for me to read also when I was a little bit younger, to just give me a little bit of a wider scope.
It's a really good example. Obviously, women have so many reasons for the decisions that they make, but it gives such a good idea of why somebody would make that really difficult decision.
Yeah.
And you know, she comes from a really religious family, and in the end she ends up telling her family what happened, and it's that whole conversation behind it. I think it's a really important read. I have a friend at work who has 2 teenage daughters who watched the movie with them because she felt like it was important. So, yeah.
That's good.
Yeah.
The next one I want to mention was also a kids series. This one I actually have not read. It's the Percy Jackson series. I really wish I had read these when I was younger, because I really feel like this would have been right up my alley. And I would have just totally eaten these up.
I know. I wish I had too. I've never read them, but I know that I would have loved them.
I still kind of want to read them.
I know.
Because I really just...
Maybe I think I have read the first one.
I don't think I have.
I'd have to look back.
No, in fact, I'm pretty sure I haven't read any of Rick's books. I kind of want to read his other ones too.
Mm-hmm.
But I think they would have been really, really good for me, because I was always reading about all kinds of Greek mythology.
Yeah, I would have absolutely just torn those books up.
Yeah. Yeah.
Next I want to talk about, we've talked about this book multiple times on our channel. It's Know My Name by Chanel Miller. Once again, very sensitive topics discussed in this book. So I understand why some people would feel like it's too much for a teenager, but Chanel Miller is such a good example for young women on how to remain strong through so many different trials and, you know, a very like turbulent time in her life.
Yeah.
And how she kind of, although she hit some rough points, she really did remember who she was, and she took everything in stride. And I just feel like everything that she went through, for those of you guys who don't know, she was the woman, the Jane Doe involved in the case with Brock Turner. And she really just took everything in stride, and I have so much admiration for how she handled herself. And she's very, very, very smart. She wrote this book, and she is the narrator of the audiobook, and it's fantastic. She is one of the brightest women that I've ever like listened to speak, and I just think that she is such a good role model almost for younger women on how to like handle difficult things that inevitably people are going to go through in their life. Maybe not what she went through, but you know, everybody's going to go through things, and she handled it so well.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
The next one that I'm going to talk about is considered a young adult book. It was written when I was younger. I think it was released in '99. It's Speak by Laurie Halse Anderson. But I didn't read it until I was older. I don't think I read it until I was like 19 or 20. But I definitely wish I had read it when. This is a really difficult story.
Very.
Very difficult, but it's something that definitely needs to be read, and I really recommend it for everyone. It's a lot of tough content. It's definitely some sexual assault. But she writes it so good, and just like, I wish I had read it when I was younger, and I definitely would recommend it for any young adult to read, because it's something that needs to be read.
100%. Deals with trauma in like a way that I don't think a lot of people talk about.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it definitely addresses a lot of the questions around, you know, like why you don't speak up. Why you
Yeah.
don't.
Yeah, because I think it's easy, especially for younger people, to view things in a very black and white way. So
Yeah.
I do think books like that
Like,
are
why
important.
didn't you tell anybody? And
Yeah.
why didn't you...
The next book I want to talk about is one that I actually did read in high school, but I want to say I was like a junior or a senior. We had this class project where we all had to pick from like a list of nonfiction books and read it and make like a presentation and a report on it. And I chose Black Like Me by John Howard Griffin. It is a very controversial book, understandably. It's about a journalist in the 1950s who goes undercover as a black man in the Deep South to examine racial issues. So he leaves his life behind as a very privileged white man in the South and goes undercover into like an area where he's now not safe, because obviously the South in the 1950s was very unsafe for a black man. And it just opens up the most important conversation about racial issues. And even though this was 75 years ago, it's still an important topic to talk about now, because it's still so many of the issues that black people deal with now. Highly, highly, highly recommend for everybody, but especially younger people, to really know what kind of world they're going into, especially white people who maybe are blind to racial issues, because that's obviously something that I was as a white girl. I had no idea what, I grew up in a predominantly white area. I had no idea that what other people were going through. I was very naive to it, and it's like an important conversation to have so that we make sure that we're being, good people.
Yeah. It is a very important book to read.
Yeah.
The next book I want to talk about is They Both Die at the End by Adam Silvera. This one deals a lot with grief and death, and also homosexuality. So it hits a lot of the points that a lot of people don't like to talk about. A lot of tough topics. I read this recently, actually, I don't know. it wasn't this year. I don't think it was last year. I definitely do recommend this for a teenager because honestly, it's a good story, good plot, and it dealt with all of those topics very, very well. Especially like since they know they're gonna die by the end of the day, and it's like,
yeah, it's not a spoiler, it's in the title, but
right. I mean, it's just like you have to deal with those things. Like you don't.
I've never read it, but I think I've heard people talk about how they both had like kind of very different paths.
So different.
Yeah.
So different. And it's an interesting concept. The whole book is an interesting concept.
How would you spend your last day if you knew you were gonna die?
Yeah. Yeah. So it's very, very good. And I kind of wish that there was more books like that and that I had access to them when I was younger.
Yeah.
Make me think a little bit more and maybe appreciate some more of my time as a younger adult.
The last book on my list to talk about is one of my favorite books of all time. I've always said this is in like my top 5 favorite books. I have a tattoo related to this book. It's The Kite Runner by Khaled Hosseini, I think is how you say it. Hosseini. This is a very, very, very popular book. I'm sure most people have heard about it, and for good reason. It's the most beautiful, heartbreaking story. It really focuses a lot on like income inequality, and that's why I wanted to mention it, because I think it's really, really important. This is another one that I read in high school, and I'm glad that I read it as a younger person, but I wish that I had maybe been exposed to it a little bit earlier. It's about a wealthy family and this lower class family that works for the wealthy family, and the 2 boys end up becoming really good friends. And the wealthier boy is not a very good friend to the other boy, obviously, because of the influence of the people around him. And it shows them throughout their life. It shows them into adulthood, and it shows him dealing with the fact that he was really not a good friend to somebody who was so loyal to him, and how that has had an impact over both of their lives.
Oh, wow.
And the reason I wanted to mention it is because I feel like young people don't realize how one decision can like impact the rest of your life. And this is a really good example of that. Like basically there's not this falling out because the other boy is never angry with him, but the wealthier boy blames him for something that he did, and it really changes the course of both of their lives. And it's very important to read. But like I said, it's one of my favorite books of all time. I know for sure that I've talked about it on the channel before.
Yeah, you have.
Yeah.
I am going to talk about 2 more kids books, actually. These are kind of more fun. I read these. I did not read them as a child, though. I read them as a teenager to my younger sister. The Junie B. Jones books.
Loved those when I was younger.
Loved them. They were adorable, so funny. And I definitely think if I had them when I was a kid, I would have just completely eaten them up, because I found them hysterical as a teenager.
Yeah.
And just loved them.
They're just so cute.
They're so cute.
Yeah.
And I just love them. They're adorable. I still recommend them to like any parent that comes in the store all the time. And then anything by Mary Downing Hahn, I probably would have devoured as a child. She's got like spooky, scary books, all about like haunted stuff. And like when I was a kid, the only thing I can remember like being similar to that I had access to, at least, granted, my school library was very small.
Yeah.
But like that I had access to was Goosebumps.
Love Goosebumps.
Which I read all of over and over.
Remember they used to have a show?
Yes, which I watched all the time. So anything I feel like that she wrote, I would have just eaten up, because we didn't have a whole lot of spooky, scary stories.
Yeah, you know. I wanted to mention an honorable mention to Sarah Dessen. Those are books that I ate up as a child, as a middle schooler.
Yeah.
So if you also have a middle schooler, loved those. Loved them.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I'm trying to think of anything that I actually like read.
Among the Hidden. It's a whole series. I can't remember the author's name.
Haddix.
Yeah, Margaret Peterson Haddix.
Haddix, yeah.
Those are some of the coolest children's books.
They are.
Ever. Did you read those?
So, I only read the first one because we started a challenge. Do you remember that challenge?
No.
We were supposed to read each other's favorite children's books.
Oh my god, yes. I don't think I ever read yours. Did I?
I don't remember what I gave you.
I don't remember either.
But yours was among the hidden, so I read it.
I remember you gave me one that I couldn't find. It was like an obscure book about like the queen or something. Yeah.
Queen, the Royal Diaries.
Yeah, I couldn't find it.
That's right. Okay, I think
But
that's
Among
why we
the
know,
Hidden,
but I did read Among the Hidden, yeah.
That series is so cool. It's about like this world where people are not allowed to have more than a certain amount of children, and so if they do, they have to hide these children. And the whole series about like is like these children that are hidden.
Yeah, it was really good.
So interesting.
It was good.
Yeah.
I read that as an adult, and it was really cool.
Like, it's not really like pertaining to, because I had it when I was younger, but I guess maybe you wish you had it when you were younger.
I do kind of wish I had it when I was younger.
To people who have children. It's like the coolest series.
Yeah. All right, so that's what we have for you today. Thank you so much for joining. Comment down below and let us know what you wish you had read when you were younger, or if you have any of your favorites from when you were younger, let us know. Hit that subscribe button and turn on that notification bell so you know when we post, and we will see you next time. Bye.